Guys, DJ more like DJ less.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Welcome into Guys Being Dudes Fantasy Football. This is your host, Noah Opsfeld. And as always with me is Michael Smith and Jared Williams. We're missing our handsome co-host today, Kieran Day. He is just on the consultant grind, but that's okay because we have our priorities straight and we know where the magic happens. It's on the show. So Let's get it going immediately. I'll just start off with how I feel because, I know a lot of people care about that. Mm-hmm. I had a decent fantasy week. It didn't feel great, but I went 5-1. It just felt dirty. I had two last-minute Patriots almost chokes. Patriots defense almost choke. And it's just like I'm so stressed at this point of the fantasy season. Even a 5-1 week is just like keeping me on my heels. Mm-hmm. And it's looking like I'm going to miss my first playoff in 3 seasons of any league. So that's been hard.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You haven't missed playoffs in any leagues in like 3 years.
It's about my first in, I think, 18 leagues that I've missed the playoffs.
What the fuck?
It hurts. I appreciate your shock. I'm shocked as well. And it's the only league I'm commissioner of. I still have a chance, but there's
That's a tough
4
league.
spots. I mean, I'm 3-6. I'm about 30 points behind someone who's 8-1. So
who else is in that league?
I think Michael is just an absolute stud in that league, about to, really make a playoff run. Jared, how are you doing in that league?
Not too good, to be quite honest. I have about 7 startable receivers in there, and I'm having a lot of difficulty shipping those off. And you can start 4 of them a week, and I'm still having difficulty shipping them off.
Well, the thing that I tend to do really well is create depth in a league, and something that I think people aren't good enough is just giving up value, in a vacuum for what's going to be best for your team.
Yeah, people.
So, for example, I just traded away DJ Moore for Latavius Murray handcuffed to Kamara and a better big QB upgrade, Ryan Tannehill. People were outraged. People were in the streets. Veto. DJ Moore worth too much. Veto. This is the chant they made. I didn't make it. It's not that catchy. But I said it. I looked at my lineup. I got A.J. Brown. I got Brandon Cooks. I got a few other wide receiver spot starts. I have excellent running backs. This is what's going to make me win a championship. DJ Moore. I mean, I said in the beginning, and I don't know if I could say it any clearer, more like DJ less.
Yeah, I want to just flashback a few weeks.
We don't have
2 weeks ago. I was getting bombarded when I said Robbie Anderson was the better play. ROS.
Well, I don't know if Robbie Anderson is the truth either, man.
But it was also split. You weren't the only one on the Robbie Anderson island.
I don't remember exactly what happened. All I remember happening
me and Mike
was
on the Moore Island
versus Kieran and yourself.
When the correct answer, like everyone knew. Well, meanwhile, the correct answer was truly Curtis Samuel. So we'll see how that ends up. I did read a deep analysis report of DJ Moore, why it's happened. The DJ Moore analysis. Basically, the thesis was that Teddy Bridgewater doesn't throw on the edge of the field as much. He doesn't throw the deep ball as much.
You would think that's good for DJ Moore.
Right. Well, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, I would think, just like field stretchers. But then Curtis, he's finding a sweet spot with Curtis Samuel with these gadget plays, someone he can rely on when the defense is drawn away deep downfield. But we'll get more into that later. Let's get into some fantasy news. Before that, this is Guys Being Dudes Fantasy Football. You can follow us on Twitter @DudesFootball. We also have YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Look how pretty I am. I just shaved a few days ago. Fantastic.
Not a YouTube week, though. Kieran is not on the show. Not a YouTube.
Okay. We all brought our A game, I brought some of my finest branded clothing. I
have a sweatshirt on.
I believe there's buttons on Michael's shirt. There you go.
A couple days ago.
You can follow us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter. Let's get into some fantasy news. Not that much fantasy news this week. The big thing is that CMC, Christian McCaffrey, after the long-awaited return, will be missing at least 1, probably more weeks He was standing on the sideline at the end of the game, just holding his shoulder, wincing in pain. And it's just, I mean, I traded my only share away early season. So, I mean, he's such a fun guy to watch, but, get better, bud. Just going to shake the Christian McCaffrey bobblehead, get some good juju up in here. Speaking of juju, Juju Smith-Schuster.
He's pretty good now.
I mean, he's all right. Big Ben on the COVID list. We saw what happened with a very similar situation with Matthew Stafford last week. He was on the COVID list, came back Sunday morning, declared to play. I guess he technically played. I don't know if you can count that as playing. He was on the field. But I think this bodes to, we've never really seen a situation where a quarterback, even one as seasoned and as experienced as Stafford, struggle because he can't practice. We've never seen a situation like this because, maybe a few times, but Big Ben's going to have to go through the same thing. Hopefully the defense will, hold down the fort for him.
Not be as bad as
he has a nice matchup, but, so did Stafford against the Vikings. Big Ben's been, obviously more respectable and reliable this year, but obviously you have to temper expectations. And that being said, for the rest of the offense, and there's my juju tie-in.
Ooh.
Nick Chubb coming back. We are seeing all these early season big running back injuries come back, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it all turns out. Yeah, so, I mean, Kareem Hunt was supposed to have this big 4 or 5 week span where he is the chosen one. It hasn't really turned out that way. In fact, he was even better for fantasy when Chubb was in the game. And I think that the Browns offense sees a resurgence here. I mean, how do you guys think it's going to affect the game? Baker, skill players.
No, I think this is good all around. Kareem Hunt, I think people are going to be undervaluing him going forward as the top tier back that he really is. He's definitely a top 10 back in the league, in my opinion, just in terms of a pure talent standpoint. And Nick Chubb coming back, I feel like it only solidifies his role as the third down back. He's going to get a lot of work. Whenever the Browns are losing, he's going to get a lot of the passing work too, especially with Odell being gone. There's even more targets to go around. So, I'm not worried about Kareem Hunt at all, and I'm definitely not worried about Nick Chubb. Maybe this week not having that huge workload, but going forward, you got to love Nick Chubb. Miles Sanders coming back this week. He's already at practice. Joe Mixon limited at practice. Austin Eckler still nowhere to be found. Those are all the big running backs.
So we'll see how those turn out. I think that this will make the Browns offense better. I mean, who do you want the rest of the season, Mike, between Chubb and Kareem?
Chubb. Yeah, I think, especially as a Chubb owner, or if you are a Chubb owner, I think you're happy about the fact that Kareem struggled a little bit because they were firing on all cylinders when it was Chubb and Kareem together. And I think Cleveland now knows that Chubb is going to be their guy, first down, second down.
I believe that Kareem scored more points with Chubb on the field than Chubb.
Mm-hmm. Definitely nothing to worry about with either of these two going forward.
Yeah. Okay, cool. David Johnson out last week with a concussion pretty early on. It looks like Duke Johnson, a really great backup and is going to be there and a great fill-in. And then a similar situation with David Montgomery. All the low-end RB2 Davids are struggling this week. Something I said last week, but I just didn't tell anyone. I said I think next week low-end RB2 Davids are going to struggle. Whatever,
interesting. They might get 0 points.
There you go. Let's get into some waivers. This is an interesting part of the year for waivers. It's week 10. We have anywhere from, really 3 to 4 weeks left of your regular season, depending on where you're at. And, it was really that time 2 weeks ago to say, where am I? Where do I need to be? But now it's time to hammer that in. Are you, do you need a Hail Mary in the next 3 weeks to get into the playoffs? Should you prepare for the, playoffs? Who cares what happens in the next 3 weeks? Your league doesn't do a bye, but just, prepare accordingly. And, but here's some guys that you should be keeping in tabs on. First off, Denzel Mims. Mims had another decent game last week, and he is becoming, I think, the one in this offense. Let's check.
The one?
Well, hear me out. He's a second round pick. He had 8 targets. Late. Sorry?
He went late. Like, he was projected to go end of the first round.
So targets are 7, 3, 8 in the last 3 weeks. And he hasn't had a touchdown yet, but he's been consistent. They have the bye week this week, so this is why I think he could be on waivers. And I think that the schedule: Chargers, Miami, Las Vegas, Seattle, Rams, Cleveland. Nice. That's a nice schedule. There's not one matchup in there that scares me. So you really don't know what's going to happen with Joe Flacco. He was airing the ball against the Patriots. They're going to be behind. But Mims and Crowder, I think, need to be rostered. Next, Tim Patrick. Similar situation, low-end guy. But you know what? That's a name that I think most of the fantasy community doesn't even know. And Tim Patrick had a touchdown or 100 yards in 4 of the last 5 games. Throw him on your bench if you need a spot start. If your receivers are going down late season, he's there. Rashard Higgins. This is, I think, maybe the most slept-on person in fantasy right now, and it's because of this perfect storm. Yeah, let's hear it, Mike. Just give me a sec. It's this perfect storm of – so we have OBJ go down. We have the running back room is going to be nice. The tight ends are healthy. This team's offense looks like it could be better than ever, and it's been decent this year. So
are you pitching us to him, or are you?
Yeah, I'm going. Rashard Higgins, week 7, 6 for 110. Week 8 in the all types of weather terrible game. You can throw that one out. It was 1 for 14. He had the bye. People forgot Rashard Higgins exists. Okay, I'm not telling him to go throw him in the lineup, but here's another fantastic schedule: Houston, Philadelphia, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Baltimore, Giants, Jets. By the way, Browns defense in the playoffs, you got the Giants and the Jets. But Rashard Higgins, similar to Tim Patrick, similar to Mims, I think is going to be on most rosters by the end of the season, get ahead of the curve. Next, Austin Hooper, similar. Brown just got their bye. He was injured. Definitely. And I know you guys are saying, oh, my God, Noah, shut up. That's enough. I'm going to let you do your segment, but I want to go on a deep dive for Jared's guy, Nelson Agholor, when you're done.
Well, I definitely agree with you on that Austin Hooper deal. Before you get to Nelson Agholor, another Raider that should be on your radar is Devontae Booker. And
Raiders on the radar.
Raider Nation, stand up. Devontae Booker is he's infamous in my life for being total dog shit. He was so bad with the Broncos. He was overdrafted. He did not produce. The Donkeys, my bad. He was so terrible. And when the Raiders signed him, I was in shambles. Because we let DeAndre Washington go, who looked pretty good with the Raiders, and then now you see the Chiefs have already shipped him off. Here's the pitch for Devontae Booker. He's clearly the number 2. It's not Jalen Richard. Jalen Richard doesn't get in the game much. Devontae Booker actually gets carries, and he's explosive as hell. And the Raiders line is very good. If Josh Jacobs goes down, Devontae Booker is a must-start every single week. He has looked really, really good. Scored his first touchdown this past week. Definitely a guy – he's a handcuff, but he's a handcuff that, you see all the hype around these other handcuffs. This is a guy that is a league winner if Josh Jacobs goes down. And, he could get 4 to 5 points a week if you ever need 4 to 5 points. Obviously, you're not looking at it, but it's a guy that could win your league if Jacobs.
Is he like a must handcuff for Jacobs owners?
I would look at it that way.
Okay.
I mean, especially maybe not in a 10-team league, I wouldn't own him, but 12-team plus for sure.
I like that.
But the thing is, Josh Jacobs owners don't have him on your radar at all, so he's probably available.
I don't think anyone has them on the radar.
I own him on a team.
Wow, look at you, big fantasy hotshot, knowing the ins and outs. Mike, what you got?
So these are two, I'd say, the more higher profile waiver guys of this week. And one of them in particular, I've been screaming his name over the last several weeks. And it's J.D. McKissic, who was the 3rd highest scoring PPR back last week. You have
running back was bad.
Christian McCaffrey and J.D. McKissic. Even when the Saints obliterated the Bucs, Alvin Kamara scored less than J.D. McKissic. So he played 83% of the snaps last week. Now, they were down really big early and had to come back. That's when J.D. McKissic plays. But he's played more snaps than Antonio Gibson in every game but 2 the entire year. So I get Antonio Gibson is a better running back than him. But J.D. McKissic has all the opportunity in the world. You throw in the fact that Alex Smith is in there, the king of checkdowns, and I guess for the foreseeable future. Kyle Allen's leg did not look good. So Alex Smith is your quarterback for the next few weeks. J.D. McKissic had 15 targets. One player had more targets than him last week. Tyreek Hill had 18. He's a running back. He's a must-own in all leagues. And if
absolutely. He's a
high-end
must-own.
RB2 in PPR.
I agree with everything you're saying, but it just doesn't make sense why.
It doesn't.
It happens. You have this amazing rookie.
He's better than James White at being James White. He's a better version of James White over 3 years.
Well, James White's droppable, so.
Well, and today,
that's a different story. So. My bad.
Right. And then the second one I love, Jacoby Myers. He, as well, had 14 targets last week. He played all but 1 snap in last week's game. And over the last 3 weeks, he has 28 targets. That's the same as Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf. He has a 38% target share over the last 3 weeks. And those are the 3 weeks since Edelman's been hurt. I get it. It's the Patriots. It's Cam, and they played the Jets. But that opportunity is there. And he's a guy that I think he may have a down week this week against the Ravens. It's going to be really interesting to see against a good defense. But they play the Texans next week. And if you're in a deep league, you could start him next week.
Yeah, and that's a nice Sunday you've built there, Mike. Let me give you the cherry on top. Fun fact of the week, Jacoby Myers has more receiving yards in the last 3 games than N'Keal Harry does in his entire career. 287. That's pretty good. 287 to 277.
I love how everybody says, "Oh, the Pats are getting a steal. They're so smart. They're picking this guy 31st, 32nd, and then these guys just don't turn out that amazing." Yeah.
N'Keal Harry's been bad.
He's been so bad.
Yeah, but go to a different universe where like the Tom Brady and gang are still there. He might be the next coming of Jesus Christ. Let's get into Nelson Agholor. This is the
coming of Jesus Christ.
Speaking of the coming of Jesus Christ, Nelson Agholor, what a wild fantasy career. He was just such a polarizing figure on the Eagles. Now he's becoming the wide receiver 1 on the Raiders and a deep ball specialist. I looked at yards per completion. Number 1 in the league by a surprising margin is Nelson Agholor with 20.4 yards per reception. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson, 18.4. Next is 18.3, DK Metcalf. Point being, he is a lot higher than the next guys. But I just want to take a look at this metric in particular, and I think it can tell us a lot about what to expect from these guys. So Nelson Agholor, number 1. Justin Jefferson, number 2. DK Metcalf, number 3. There's guys in here who obviously can take advantage of this and, turn 5 catches into 100 yards every week. Mm-hmm. Number 4, DJ Moore. And I'm going to talk about this type of long catch guy that I think is going to be, basically your boomer bust by definition. And it gets better. 5, MVS. 6, Christian Kirk. 7, Mike Williams. 8, Kenny G, another guy who can get it done. 9, Will Fuller, a guy who can get it done. 10, Gallup. 11, Jerry Jeudy. You're sensing a trend here. There's this group of guys, Agholor, and I think DJ Moore is venturing into or venturing down into this group of these boomer busts. Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, keep going down. Preston Williams, Mecole Hardman are up there, and I'll get into that. Now, here's what's super interesting. Out of the 100 receivers featured in this ranking, 98 with 10.5 yards per completion, Keenan Allen, one of the lowest in the league, but the volume is so good. So it's not just my point is it's not just a metric of fantasy production. Number 92 is Tyler Boyd, 87 Cooper Kupp.
What are you getting at?
So I'm getting into there's this list of these boomer bust receivers, and I want to get into them because I think they can make or break people's fantasy seasons here. I said Nelson Agholor, and I'm going to add a few more to the list.
You have the list up right now?
Yeah, let me put it in the doc so you guys can see.
Where's Tyler Lockett on that?
Tyler Lockett does not belong on this list.
Well, I'm just curious at what his average air yards is.
That is a good question. But I think he's pretty low, actually. When he does break out, he does it with volume. Alan Lazard, Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, Nelson Agholor, Jalen Reagor, who I'm going to just throw in for fun, and then Corey Davis. Corey Davis was amazing until last week against the Bears. So I want you to pick your favorite and your least favorite and tell me why out of that list. And I'll give you a second.
Do you want me to go first? I have
my pick. To go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll pick.
I have my pick as well. I'm going to go ahead and type it in. You can start talking now.
All right. My pick here is actually Corey Davis, and I'll tell you why. He had one off week. The Bears defense is so good. He was neck and neck with A.J. Brown, and I think he could be a buy low. But I really want to advocate for Nelson Agholor here. Nelson Agholor, when you look into him deeper, he is a touchdown machine. And the bottom line is Jared said this last week, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. And I guarantee he's on a lot of your waivers. Week 4, touchdown. Week 5, touchdown. Week 6, bye. Week 7, touchdown. Week 8 was a weather game, doesn't count. And week 9, touchdown. Okay. This guy is a wide receiver 3. Very solid. My least favorite on the list is probably Mike Williams. I think he's too volatile. I like Rager and Kirk better. Mike, what you got?
I think I'm assuming that's Jared's favorite on the dock there, and it's my favorite as well out of that group, and it's Lazard. Just think of your opportunity. If he comes in and can be the Packers wide receiver 2 again, then I just think he's a step above this group. I'd say my least favorite on there as well, is Mike Williams. I honestly like Jalen Rager a lot. I think he's my number 3 on that list after Corey Davis, then Rager. I just, like you said, I just don't like Mike Williams all that much.
Yeah.
Well, Kirk is my last. I'm with Mike on this one. Alan Lazard with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. When he comes back, hopefully within a couple weeks, hopefully he's going to slide right in that number 2 role again. He's a volume guy. He's a guy who can catch it deep. He's such a talented player. But, yeah, just the eye test with Nelson Agholor. Nelson Agholor is really good at catching deep bombs and holding on to them. He basically does what people thought Henry Ruggs was going to do.
I was just about to say that.
No, but like
if you're in a PPR league,
he's explosive.
Yeah. If you're in a PPR league, probably avoid him. I mean, here's his receptions: 1-1-2-4-2-5-0-2.
It's a good standard dart throw. I mean, when you're in standard, you're not chasing receptions; you're chasing upside yards and touchdowns.
Absolutely, and I think PPR needs to be owned as well.
And he plays a lot. There's nobody else to challenge him.
Absolutely,
and he's good.
All right, that's been my little Noah's analysis segment.
I like that little exercise. That was nice.
Fun.
Little dive into yards per catch. Very interesting stuff. Here's a fun little riddle for you. True or false? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is to Le'Veon Bell as Rojo is to Fournette.
Oh, no.
False.
Definitely. There's 2 completely different situations.
Okay. I just wanted to test the waters. Obviously, Fournette is probably more involved than Le'Veon, but people are saying to drop Le'Veon. Are you guys dropping him?
No.
It depends on the size of league, but I wouldn't be scared cutting him.
He's too good of a hand.
Honestly, like running backs have not worked out in Kansas City with Mahomes. You always think you need a piece of that offense. Let's draft Damon Williams at the end of the first. Let's just Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end of the first. And it doesn't work. I've said it both seasons, but I fell into the trust the experts trap in one of my leagues and did draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's okay though. I'm gonna win that league.
It's not the worst. He hasn't been completely terrible. He just hasn't been.
It's just he was drafted 5-6 in a lot of places.
In a PPR league, he hasn't disappointed that much in a PPR league in the sense that he's only been under one game.
And he stayed healthy.
He just doesn't have the ceiling we thought. He has a pretty high floor.
And honestly, compared to a lot of those, Miles Sanders, Chubb, a lot of those guys, Mixon, you're probably.
He's been healthy.
Yeah.
He's been healthy. But
all right, let's move into our guys we're looking to trade for. I'll go first just because it's the quick one. We talked about Kareem Hunt earlier. I really still love Kareem Hunt. I think that Chubb coming back does nothing negative towards his value. He might get less carries, but I think he'll get more receptions that way. And I'll let you guys take the floor for the rest.
Yeah, I'll go quickly before Noah can hop in. Hayden Hurst, tight end's obviously a wasteland. It's Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, T.J. Hawkinson, then Mark Andrews and his
bad.
Maybe.
I think Hayden Hurst is moving into a tier up, and he hasn't been scoring the touchdowns, but he has at least 6 targets in every 5 of the last 6 games.
He gets 10 points a game.
He's established himself, especially in PPR leagues, as sort of the top 5, maybe 5-6 tight end in the league. So I think he's separating from the Jonus and others of the world that are down in the touchdown.
Definitely.
I honestly just opened a league to go trade him away because I need to. That's on my to-do list because I have Mark Andrews. But honestly, between Mark Andrews and I feel like you want Mark Andrews, right?
Over Hurst?
No,
I'd rather Hurst.
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
I was gonna even do as a. So should I trade Mark Andrews on?
I think Mark Andrews is like an integral value is higher. Hurst.
Yeah. The only thing is that Mark Andrews' playoff schedule is Cleveland, Jacksonville, Giants. Hayden
they just
Hurst
don't pass. And Lamar is not accurate.
Is Chargers, Tampa Bay, Kansas City.
Lamar does not have more than 250 yards passing on the year in a game.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's insane.
And Hurst is now averaging only 0.5 below him. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Mark Andrews still.
Mark Andrews.
I think it's pretty close.
He has 5 games below 5 half PPR points. That's horrible.
Jeez.
That's horrible. Let's have a couple 2019, 14, but they're few and far between. Someone I think a very high profile name is Derrick Henry. You're going to have to give up a king's ransom, but their playoff schedule is absolutely easy. He is going to be a league winner. Obviously, he's a first round pick, a top 5 pick, but he's going to be probably the best running back in the entire playoffs.
See, I agree with you, but here's where I disagree is you got the Colts, Baltimore Colts coming up for the Titans. I wouldn't wait for all of it to end, but maybe if you can wait one more week, I think he's going to have an underwhelming week again. I just acquired Derrick Henry in a league, actually, and let me know what you guys think. I had a lot of depth to start, but it's Josh Allen, Kareem Hunt, Zach Moss, and Jalen Reagor for some team that was completely depleted.
For just Henry?
Yep.
Yeah. Who'd you give away again?
Kareem Hunt, Josh Allen, Jalen Reagor, Zach Moss.
And this is a 10-team league?
14-team.
You gave away all that in the 14? Damn.
I like it. Who's your
people in the league? Herbert.
I love that. Because
see, this is the Noah effect. You ask a neutral source, not in the league, but people were saying to veto it because they don't want to see me win for the 3rd year in a row. That's the hashtag Noah effect.
I saw your nice little kicker strat.
Don't even get me started on the kicker strat. That's the league, though, the kicker strat league. I'm guaranteeing the playoffs. I do not have a kicker in that league. My trade for Ryan Tannehill. We have that same schedule as just talking about. Indianapolis, Baltimore, Indianapolis coming up. If anyone, go check who the Ryan Tannehill owner is because they might be struggling. I found a struggling Ryan Tannehill owner, and I now have Ryan Tannehill. Look how that worked out. Tom Brady. Nobody thinks Tom Brady is going to – oh, that's it. Look at that. Couldn't get it done against the Saints, but obviously it doesn't bode well. I think Brady comes back. If there's one player probably ever that you're going to say I'm more comfortable with bouncing back after a bad game, is it not Tom Brady?
Tom Brady, he has the weapons and he has the ability to QB sneak in rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, and that schedule as well in the playoffs is great.
I didn't know a lot of people were looking to trade him, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it depends on the situation, obviously, but I think if you're QB needy, now is a good time. Another one is Chris Godwin. I think people are trying to get out of Tampa Bay receiving game, and I think Chris Godwin is going to be the one, and I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable, 85, 6 for 85 and 1, or 6 for 90 and 0 every week. You can't expect that second round grade that you drafted him for, but you can expect production. Last two that I think are just guys that are going to end the season well that are maybe you can snag for guys who are a little below their value is Joe Mixon and Calvin Ridley. Did I get it?
You got it.
Yes. I could never pronounce Ridley.
Good job.
Damn it. Anyways, Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley, go trade up for them.
I don't know about Godwin. I'm not as high as him as you are, but Mixon, Ridley for sure.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. Let's get into some trade away. I'll start it off an easy one. I don't really think I have to go bad into it. J.J. Chark, huge week with this rookie quarterback. I just don't want to be there. I mean, Mike, might want to be there because that's your team, but do you want to be there fantasy-wise?
Honestly.
Look up to what he put last week.
I had him as a sell last week.
Yeah.
I'd honestly be buying him. Now, this week, his value is as high as it's been after this week. I think he's going to have a tough week this week. More to come on that because they're playing the Packers and Jair Alexander. But after that, it's the Steelers, the Browns, the Vikings, and the Titans, who are all exploitable secondaries. I think he could return significant value.
Sure, actually. Okay, there you go. My other trade away after many a month on the DJ Moore train is DJ Moore. The name is still there. we've seen so much evidence. I mean, how many more weeks do we need to, oh, that's the week where I'm not going to trust him anymore. This is the week. Yeah, he's going to have another good game, but he's not going to have another one after that. It's going to be another dry spell for a few weeks. I don't want that risk on my team. I think you can go capitalize on his name. I just traded him away for Ryan Tannehill and a handcuff. If you can do something like that to secure your playoff run, then I like it.
Interesting. I'm glad you've joined my DJ Moore hate train.
Yeah, just go.
All right.
Why don't you just?
Yeah. So we talked about it a little earlier with the yards per attempt. Justin Jefferson is my trade away target because I know he hasn't had a lot of good games. His value's probably pretty low right now. I was really big on him before, but I've come to realize that the Vikings, if they're winning, in which they are right now, and their defense doesn't look bad anymore, and Dalvin Cook's the most dominant running back I've seen in the game right now, maybe excluding Alvin Kamara at times. But they're not the team that I thought were going to be throwing the ball a ton every week. So that's why I have Justin Jefferson. I don't want him. He's a boomer bust kind of guy. He gets a lot of deep balls, sort of like Adam Thielen now. And it's just not something I want to be a part of.
He was like a wide receiver 1 for through week 7 or 8. And then he just dropped off because Dalvin Cook.
I still think he's a low-end tier 2 or running wide receiver 2. But
see, I think the difference here is you look at other guys scoring the same amount of points as him, and I think that inherently they're going to hold more trade value just because of the name value. Justin Jefferson is newer, and I think people are scared that it might be a flash. But yes, I do agree that it is a trade away.
Yeah. Here's a good one: Justin Jefferson or DJ Chark rest of the season. Or T Higgins.
Oh, Higgins. I think Higgins is so underranked everywhere.
I'd rather Higgins, yeah.
Michael was there first. I'm not going to pretend I was with Higgins first. Michael, that's on you.
I always got to get some rookies right. I'm very excited to hear this next trade away candidate because I agree with full disclosure.
Go for it.
Oh, mine? Oh, my bad. I thought you were going to yours. Zach Moss is my other one, and I know Michael shares the sentiment. Watching the Bills play, Zach Moss is their goal line running back. He is out-rushing Devin Singletary now. But on the goal line, they throw the ball, or they run the ball with Josh Allen a ton. It seems like Zach Moss will get one goal line carry, and if he doesn't get in, then they're going to pass, or they're going to Josh Allen QB sneak, or they're going to Josh Allen power run. So it's not someone I really want to be chasing. Plus, they just throw the ball a ton now, even like when they're not at the goal line. So it's not someone I'm really looking for. I feel like you can get your highest value for him because people will see the carries and they'll see the touchdowns. But in my opinion, he's still one of those guys that's an RB3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that Zach Moss is a tough one because it's a weird fantasy guy. But this last week, he went 9 for 18 and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 30 yards, had a decent day saved by the touchdown against Seattle. Seattle is historically bad passing defense. It's not a throwaway game, but it kind of is. Before that, he had 14 for 81 and 2 touchdowns. His big breakout game. Okay, he has Arizona, the bye, and then Chargers, San Francisco, Pittsburgh. I mean, those aren't super obvious passing games. I think that he's going to be getting more volume. I think that they say this is a playoff team. We're going to go out and do our best to beat these teams. And Zach Moss is going to be just a more competent guy that we want to be ready for the playoffs. I think Zach Moss is a nice flex going forward, and I do not think he is a trade away. I think I'm kind of on an island because everyone I talk to about Zach Moss is kind of just whatever about it. I'm not saying he's the next coming of Jesus. I can't use that reference twice in the show. That's my bad. I can't say he's a big guy coming, he's going to be amazing, but I just think that he's being undervalued and that he is going to be a nice floor for the rest of the season.
I was just saying, I feel like you can get RB2 value for him, but if you're trying to get rid of him and you can't get that value, then maybe not.
I mean, at some point, who do you want?
I'd rather have him than Singletary for sure.
Oh yeah, but
that's not saying much.
But what are you starting in your flex? Is it going to be like a Christian Kirk, Mike Williams guy, or is it? I mean, is this going to be a very solid David Montgomery, Zach Moss starting running back floor? They are starting running back in the NFL. They need to be value. That needs to be given some value. Mike, who you got?
One thing there, half his points over the last 2 weeks have come from touchdowns. And yeah, it's important, but I don't think Zach Moss is going to score touchdowns if he breaks one. Because like Jared said, he doesn't get in at the goal line on his first try. They're going to run Josh Allen. They're going to throw the ball. And their schedule down the stretch is brutal for run defenses. So that's sort of why I'm on the sell train as well. It is fair because he is better than Devin Singletary. He is their best running back on the roster. Mm-hmm. It's just
it is a tough schedule for running backs. I will say that.
And they still have a bye left. So if you're a needy team, like trading for him, you could trade for him maybe if you are in the playoffs right now. Because if you need to win now, this isn't the right candidate to trade for. But for me, my trade away guy is Tyler Lockett. And I think people look at his explosion games and say, oh, it's going to come again. Well, I look at his dud games, sort of like a Mark Andrews, and think that is closer to Tyler Lockett than the 5-point game that he had, because he's had 3 games with 5, 5, and 4 targets. I just think DK Metcalf is becoming the guy that's demanding more targets than Tyler Lockett.
He's a superstar now.
And at the beginning of the year, they were trading games where it was Lockett, then Metcalf, and people still think of Tyler Lockett because of his points on the season as a top 10 wide receiver, and I don't. Looking at wide season rankings, Tyler Lockett is number 10 in half PPR, above Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, and Allen Robinson. And I'd take all 3 of those below him before I take Tyler Lockett.
Interesting.
The one thing I will say is I think he does have a good week this week, and he has a chance because of Jalen Ramsey shadowing DK Metcalf, and he also has this game in week 16. The weeks that he does well in is big scoring weeks. He played Arizona in week 7. We had the huge one, and then Dallas in week 3, both really high scoring games. But listen to the schedule. You got Rams and Arizona should be good, but I just think that Seattle's going to overpower Philly, the Giants, the Jets, Washington, which is just a huge chunk of the season left. And I think that's a DK Metcalf script and not really a Lockett script. He'll have his games. Who do you want rest of the season, Tyler Lockett or Adam Thielen?
Lockett, for sure. That's not even close, in my opinion.
Lockett or Allen Robinson?
Allen Robinson, definitely.
Lockett.
Or Will Fuller, who I think is undervalued. Still,
I'd rather have Lockett.
Yeah, we bickered so much about the Fuller versus Cooks debate at the beginning of the year, and everyone won. So everyone's happy. Sure. It's amazing what happens when DeAndre.
I think us on the Fuller side won more. In my
what? He was drafted 3 rounds before.
No, it was a side by side comparison. Who do you trust more rest of the season? It wasn't given there.
Okay.
Will Fuller scored in each of the last 8 weeks or whatever.
I mean, Brandon Cooks last week, he had one huge catch.
You know what? Yeah, Fuller did win, but I still feel like a winner as a Cooks guy.
No, you definitely are. And they both stayed healthy. That's what matters.
That's awesome. That's been trade away. Let's get into some dudes and duds. Last week we had I did really bad. JaMychal Hasty with my dude. Allen Robinson, Michael was average. Jared had John Brown. Good. Kieran and Aaron Rodgers. Good. We'll take it. Yeah. Dud of the week, Todd Gurley.
Oh, and Gino, of course.
Oh, come on. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. It's a lead up. He doesn't understand showbiz. It's fine. Dud of the week, I had Todd Gurley. Michael had Tyreek Hill. That's an oof in the chat. Jared had Hayden Hurst.
Not
and
good.
Kieran had Jonathan Taylor. Saved him with a touchdown, but good overall. But, man, Gino from Bet Openly came on last week. He sat down for 15 minutes in the hour show. He predicts his dude, Josh Allen. We said, hey, come on, man. I don't know if that's really a dude against Seattle. And then he has a career day, okay? His dud, superstar, Derrick Henry. Probably one of his worst games in his career. On top of that, comes in, smokes us all in DFS, and then just disappears forever.
He did not smoke me. Thank you very much.
He
barely beat me, and I started a running back that didn't play. So
we'll get into that. Let's talk about our dudes.
He got hurt on the first play of the game.
There you go.
First play of the game.
Let's talk about our dudes. I'm going to go with a guy who has been in the injury reports recently. It's Antonio Gibson versus my Detroit Lions. And then if he's out, fire up McKissick. like Mike's been saying. I mean, Detroit, we saw Dalvin Cook. They're now the best run team to run against in the league. At least we're best at something. And I think that this is going to be a nice script for Washington. Stafford looks far from elite, to say it. I mean, he looks bad.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man. And, I think both those guys fire him up.
All right, speaking of Stafford, I'm going with one of his weapons, T.J. Hawkinson, this week. T.J. Hawkinson is really he's one of those guys that saves you every week by putting up at least 50 yards or at least a touchdown. He's getting close to 10 targets a game. The Washington football team is 27th this year against the tight end. They're pretty terrible. I think it's going to be a good script for him as well. Got a lot of short work. Hopefully they'll be able to push the ball down to the goal line at least a couple of times and he could snag one. And Kenny Galladay's not playing. Kenny Galladay's a great red zone threat, so that definitely opens up things for him even more. I'm predicting tight end 1 on the week with Travis Kelce out.
Nice.
Thank you. Take your time, Mike.
You frozen, Mike? I think he's frozen.
Oh,
there he goes.
There he
Mike,
is.
You there?
Oh, there we go. I'm back.
My Zoom froze.
I'm here.
Excellent.
TJ Hawkinson. For me, I'm going Cooper Kupp, and I'm saying he's the PPR wide receiver 1 on the week. They're playing Seattle. Rams just came off a bye. He was limited in practice today, I believe. I'm not too concerned about it. The week before the bye, he had 20 targets. I love the Rams skilled players in this game.
Yeah, I'm more of a Woods guy this week myself than Kupp.
Don't say that.
Jared, why don't you break the tie?
The injury news on Kupp scares me because he has a wrist and an oblique issue. That's 2 things coming off a bye you don't really want. But if he wasn't hurt, definitely Kupp. We'll have to see if he's hurt. If he's hurt going into the game, if he's hurt going into the game, I'd rather have Woods. But if he's healthy going into the game,
let's get into our dud of the week. I got Josh Jacobs against Denver.
You.
We had big old names being thrown around. I felt bad that I did Tad Gurley. I thought it was too easy. Josh Jacobs against Denver. Denver's been this sneaky good run defense this year, and he hasn't been able to get it done recently. Josh Jacobs, this highly touted, could be this big breakout season. Can't really find the end zone. Your boy Booker is the backup that they gave the goal line carry to.
Not a goal line carry. He broke off
a big run. Okay, well, he broke it off because they might even give him more volume this week.
Yeah,
you're starting Josh Jacobs, but honestly, I think he doesn't break.
His ceiling is low,
like 12 PPR maybe. Like that's
what he's been getting. It's not good.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go Adam Thielen. He's one of the guys we talked about earlier. They're playing the Bears. It's not a good script. I don't like these players that are catching these big bombs for consistency. If you're putting these players together with guys like Nelson Agholor, you're not going to have a good time if you're talking about some high-end receivers. So that's why I have Adam Thielen.
Interesting. I think the Vikings are going to be in a little bit of a closer game this week against the Bears. They're going to have to throw the ball more. So I do see Adam Thielen having a little bounce-back week. For me, it's DJ Chark, and it's simply because playing the Packers, who are probably going to be up big. So the Jags are going to be throwing the ball a lot. But up against Jair Alexander, who is one of the best corners in the league.
For the podcast audience, my cat just crawled out from under my bed from her nap. So I'm hoping her as long as not my cat's, my roommates, but we hang out a lot.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So let's get into our DFS for the week. We talked about the man Gino. Gino led the week, 166 points in his lineup. He got first. I got second with, a nice little 156 bomb playing Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
No big deal. Kieran came in third, Michael fourth, and Noah dead last.
Get to the standings.
All right, let's get to the standings. Things are tightening up. Michael and Kieran tied for first at 14 and 10. Me and Noah tied for third at 10 and 14. And Gino, we're keeping a separate tab. He's 4-0.
Yeah, he earned it.
Up there. Yeah. All right, but let's get into the lineups. I will start first. I'm very curious to see how similar our lineups are. I feel like there's definitely some must starts, and I'll get to those real quick. Number 1, Josh Allen at QB. I feel like Kyler or Josh Allen, you have to pick one of the two. James Robinson at running back. Jamal Williams is my RB2. Devontae Adams, in my opinion, another must start. Tyler Lockett, I feel like he's too cheap for that boom value that he could produce.
Yeah.
Then I got a nice sneaky one, Jalen Reagor at 4,200. I don't know how good of a game he's going to be, but hopefully Bradbury's not covering him.
This is the value week off the bye.
Yeah. TJ Hawkinson, my tight end one on the week. Mike Davis as the flex. That's too good a value. And then the Saints defense against the 49ers, 3,000. Sign me up.
Interesting.
Thank you.
I am going to go with Kyler on that side of the debate. At running back, Davis at $4,000 is crazy. Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Nelson Agholor, putting my money where my mouth is. Robert Woods, the number one Rams receiver of the week. I got Jacob Hollister, sneaky 60 yards last week. And then Antonio Gibson, which is going to transition into McKissick if he's out. And then Bengals D against the Steelers. We have the Matthew Stafford COVID effect. We have Ben coming out. They couldn't get it done against the Cowboys. There's something wrong with that offense. I like the Bengals at $2,100.
Okay. For me, honestly, I went the step down with quarterbacks, and I was looking at Herbert and Jared Goff, who are about 1,000 less than Josh Allen. To me, those are the two that I think are better plays than Josh Allen and Kyler Murray this week. A running back, I can't believe neither of y'all picked in a PPR DFS, J.D. McKissick. I mean, 14 targets, 9 catches. That's 9 points right there. Whatever. I'll get off my soapbox. There's a running back. He's coming back. Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, the best Rams wide receiver of the week at wide receiver. TJ Hawkinson, of course, at tight end. Flex, Mike Davis. And then the fly Eagles, fly defense against the New York Giants.
I think we all have good lineups this week.
I'm very interested.
I just would not feel comfortable not having Devontae Adams in my lineup. That would just
and Mike Davis.
What happens when the Packers get up big and they feed Aaron Jones?
They were up big.
Then I have Aaron Jones in my lineup. The Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams stack. Not usually a good idea, but I had to. Few questions for y'all before we get into this week. I mean, who is the San Francisco running back of the week versus New Orleans? Is it McKinnon or Hasty?
McKinnon.
It's McKinnon.
The correct answer was neither. You shouldn't start anyone in San Francisco, but if you have to, it is McKinnon. How about New England? Damian Harris, James White, Rex Burkhead against Baltimore. Which running back you want?
Damian Harris.
If he's healthy and plays.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah, I might go Rex here, but I mean Damian Harris is the obvious one, but I think Rex could pull it out as a more passing guy. They need to get creative against Baltimore. And then speaking of Baltimore, who's your Baltimore against New England? Dobbins or Gus Bus?
I got Gus. And keep in mind, Mark Ingram is practicing. He's supposed to play this week.
Mm-hmm.
But
throw Ingram in there.
I don't know. Yeah, you don't want to start Mark Ingram. I would rather have Gus.
Dobbins is such a better player, but Gus keeps getting the goal line work. And just for that upside, I'm going to go Gus, even though –
No, I think Gus is a really good player. He's a much better Mark Ingram.
I'm willing to say, and this probably isn't going out on that much of a limb, but Jerick is the highest scoring running back out of all the ones we just listed this week. I think they're going to score the ball, and they're going to get – Jerick McKinnon's going to be peppered with 5-6 targets. We willing to put some –
I mean, I'll take the field if you're giving me the field.
Oh, well, I'm not doing Jerick versus the field. We got to take one here.
I'd rather have a Ravens back.
Okay. I'm asking for a friend. Dobbins or McKinnon?
Like rest of season or this week?
This week.
McKinnon.
Give me Dobbins. I like the talent better.
Thursday night football, Colts versus Titans.
This is a good game.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. But Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Wilkins, Nyheim Hines has been a tough backfield to predict. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, one of the biggest buzz after Marlon Mack being out for the season. I mean, he's been probably the most hotly contested player. And, we'll see how that works out. I think Jonathan Taylor has a decent rest of the season, and I like him. But this week, I think you can start Wilkins as well.
Yeah.
Corey Davis, bounce back game against a tough Colts secondary?
No, not this week. Week after, though.
I honestly would be kind of comfortable with starting him this
week. It's not
week.
The worst play.
Not the worst.
He's definitely not droppable. If you dropped him after his dud, that's not smart.
No way. Huh. Texans, Browns.
Yeah. Cooks and Fuller, as we've talked about there, honestly, you can plug and play. Plug and chug, set and forget. You don't have to worry about it. David Johnson, as we said at the top, probably on the wrong side of 50-50. I'd be surprised if he played this week. Duke Johnson in any sort of PPR league, PPR, half PPR, I think it's an RB2. You pretty much have to start given the running back landscape if David Johnson is out. Browns, like we talked about, Chubb probably coming back. It'll be interesting to see how much, if he does play. They still haven't even said that he's going to play, but if he does play, how much workload he gets right off the bat, because this would be a plus matchup for him. You're starting him. If he's cleared and active, he may not get the workload you'd expect and hope.
Yeah, Duke played pretty well when David Johnson went down, and he got a decent amount of carries. So
right, he did.
Right.
I think he
Washington football team at the Lions. No, if we want to talk about Washington football team real quick, we talked about their running backs. Terry McLaurin's a wide receiver 1. He's very good at football. What about the Lions, Noah?
I mean, okay, I wrote in the doc, Noah complains about the Lions for a bit. I mean, it's just so frustrating. It's not even a fun failure. The Browns were so flashy with their failure. Oh, we're going to bring in OBJ and Baker and crazy now, and we're going to have, this guy
they're gonna make
go for 3 games in a row with 200 yards, but then he has drug problems. At least it was, good media content. And just the Lions just, Stafford and our new coach. Oh, he's bad too. Oh, cool. No,
let's get another running back.
We might as well be the Detroit team, honestly, because there's no roar in this team. Wow. That's all I got.
Dang, that was depressing.
It's so
depressing. All right, Bucks and Panthers. We got our first look at AB. Tom Brady was really spreading the ball around. I think everybody had 6 targets out of those 3 receivers, plus Gronk. I mean, they didn't play well, but you can't really like these receivers. He's going to be spreading the ball around. If you're looking at the backfield, hopefully they'll get more.
This could be a Rojo week.
This could be a Rojo week. The Panthers are notorious for having a very bad run defense, but Leonard Fournette has that floor in PPR. He catches a lot of balls, and he's pretty good at catching balls. So, putting the 2 head-to-head, I'd rather have Leonard Fournette going forward. On the Panthers side, we talked about everything.
We don't need to talk about
Mike Davis. Mike Davis has not been performing too well the past few weeks, before. But he's a guy that you want to start. You want to start.
And I think Brady has a good bounce back week, 250 and 3 for Brady.
Ooh. Next matchup, Eagles and Giants. Before I get into that, because there's not much to talk about, I'll take some time to do some complaining. As a Jaguar fan watching that Monday Night Football game, Trevor Lawrence was in our lap. And then Joe Flacco. First and 10, you're up 10 in the fourth quarter, and you're throwing play action deep on. What are you?
No sense.
If it makes you feel better, it won me 2 weeks, that pick.
They ran 4 plays in the fourth quarter with a 10.
Literally, so that pick single-handedly won me 2 games.
That's textbook tanking there. Anyways, Eagles, Giants. I'm interested to see how the Eagles, a lot of their skill guys coming back. We got Miles Sanders back in the mix, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert, Alshon potentially playing. Carson Wentz is getting his guys back. And it'll be interesting to see how they do against a pretty solid Giants defense. Giants defense has been pretty good this year. On the Giants, Devonta Freeman is limited at practice. If he plays, it's going to be difficult to predict which one of the 2, Gallman versus Freeman, returns value. If Devonta doesn't play, you could play Wayne Gallman. I don't see him getting in the end zone, but he has a relatively high floor given the running back landscape. Other than that, not much needed for the Giants.
I have a quick question for you guys. So in your leagues, how many of them are you starting a running back in your flex spot? Because I feel like I am just the wide receivers are so much better, and it's hard to have 3 really good running backs.
My 5, or I think I'm starting a running back.
It's crazy how that works.
All 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
I have one where I have just so much running back depth, but that's a weird.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, though, to see how this Eagles receiving core turns out with Reagor and Fulgham's emergence. And then Alshon, there's still, that's a big contract he still has. And Goddard, I think Goddard actually could just he could just start it right now. But
no words.
There's just not enough volume for all these guys to be successful unless Sanders can get back on the field and just be his former self. then I mean, the guy you want is Carson Wentz, to be honest. I mean, I think he's a top 10 QB 2 the last 3 weeks. So, I mean, that's a great play. Moving on, Seahawks at Rams. If you're desperate for a quarterback start here and you need a win now, I would go trade for Goff, because pick him up even. This is the week where you are going to get 25, maybe 30 from Goff. I mean, we've seen him have huge games against really bad teams. And then the backfield, Cam Akers is healthy. I don't want to touch it right now, but like, I think Malcolm Brown, Akers, and Henderson are all good bench spots, because they're going to give you a 7-8 if some one of these guys go down. And I want a piece of that instead of some crazy flyer receiver, basically.
I have no pieces of the Rams backfield, and it feels
probably a good idea.
Only one worth owning. Well, I mean, I guess you have to stash him for deeply, but Henderson's clearly their guy. Now, Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. Cam Akers doesn't see the field if Darrell Henderson doesn't get hurt 2 weeks ago.
All right. We got 2 more matchups to go. Ravens at Patriots. I'll let Mike take the lead on this for the Patriots.
Ravens, Patriots, kind of like I talked about earlier, Jacoby Myers, I think, is someone you could potentially start this week. Damiere Byrd also had 9 targets. They had probably over 50% of the target share from Cam Newton. Doesn't mean all that much. It'll be interesting to see against a legitimate defense in Baltimore. But it looks like those two have legitimate chemistry. Julian Edelman's nowhere to be found. He won't be coming back anytime soon. And N'Keal Harry is he's off the radar. Hurt, but completely off the radar. The Ravens, man, they were supposed to be this elite offense running. Like, you were supposed to have a piece of the backfield and you'd feel comfortable. You'd have Hollywood Brown scoring touchdowns, Mark Andrews scoring touchdowns. It just hasn't happened. I think it's all square on Lamar Jackson not regressing as a passer.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know who out of their skill players has a big week. I don't
want to start any Ravens player besides Lamar Jackson. I don't even really want to start Lamar. I mean, you have to start Lamar Jackson, but you're not. I mean,
if you look at last week, I mean, the deep ball for the Jets was working, so Hollywood could make it happen. But yeah, I think generally want to avoid that. And then lastly, Raiders at Broncos. Ruggs is. I don't want to start Ruggs. I don't even think he should be owned, honestly.
Completely agree. Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with the Broncos backfield.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon, he was supposed to go to trial this Friday, and they pushed it back to December. So if that 3-game suspension happens, it'll be for the last 3 games of the season.
Very interesting.
That'll be interesting to see.
That's Lindsay Central. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in to Guys Being Dudes Fantasy Football. This is your – I'm doing the intro. You follow us on Twitter at Dudes Football. We are on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Much love, and feel free to DM us with any questions. You're going to need help if you want that championship. Awesome. See you guys.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.